Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 was followed by a flurry of Western sanctions that were designed to cripple the Russian economy and isolate Moscow globally, effectively cutting it off from the rest of the world, not only diplomatically, but also from the global financial systems. Therefore, you would think that Russians must be significantly worse off today than they were before the start of the Ukraine war. But, surprise, surprise, the exact opposite seems to have actually happened. Even as the Russia-Ukraine conflict resulted in economic crises and hardships for the rest of the world, Russia inexplicably emerged as an unexpected beacon of prosperity. In the midst of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, Russia managed to defy all expectations by adding a staggering $60 billion to its total wealth in the past year. The number of Russian millionaires soared by approximately 56,000, reaching a total figure of more than 400,000. While the number of ultra high net worth individuals, that is, people whose worth is over $50 million, rose by nearly 4,500. So the question that arises is this: just how did Russia accomplish this stupendous financial feat amidst international sanctions and geopolitical turmoil? Rising oil prices could be one key factor. Russia, known for its significant oil exports, experienced a boost in wealth as the cost of one barrel of benchmark Urals crude jumped by approximately $7 in 2022. And while Russia defied the odds and further prospered, here's the irony. Countries that imposed sanctions on Russia, the United States and most of Europe, have faced a very different fate this past year. Now, the Union Bank of Switzerland, or UBS, has reported that the United States lost more wealth than any other country this past year, shedding a staggering $5.9 trillion. North America and Europe combined saw a collective decline of $10.9 trillion in their wealth. Moreover, according to this bank report, the US saw a decrease of 1 million millionaires by the end of 2022. Despite this decline, the US still accounted for over 50% of the world's ultra high net worth individuals. But it's not just Russia and the US in this financial roller coaster. Now, the UBS report reveals that Mexico, India and Brazil also saw a significant increase in their wealth in 2022. Meanwhile, countries like Japan, China, Canada and Australia experienced substantial losses. As the world grapples with shifting financial dynamics, these unexpected turns in the Global Wealth Report remind us that the economic landscape can be as unpredictable as it's fascinating. In summary, the 2022 Global Wealth Report has unveiled a wealth roller coaster where Russia emerges as an enigma of prosperity, while traditional economic powerhouses face turbulence. The impact of geopolitical conflicts, changing energy prices and economic policies continue to shape the fortunes of nations around the globe. All right, let's go back to Shri for more on this. Shri, tell us, just how on earth did the Russians get richer even after the sanctions? I'm dying to know, and I can bet that the rest of the world is feeling both jealous and baffled. How did they do this?
So, Neha, I can almost imagine one man reading this Forbes Russia report and smiling away. That's Vladimir Putin sitting in his Kremlin office, looking at the numbers coming out. Because after, Russia decided to invade Ukraine, a raft of sanctions were imposed on Russia. It was even kicked out of the global financial banking system, SWIFT. And despite all those measures, Russia has come out on top, looking, as healthy as Vladimir Putin. So I think that's largely because Russia managed to find newer customers for its resources, which is the oil is its single largest export. India started buying from Russia. China stepped up its import of oil from Russia. And even the sanctions, Neha, to my mind, did not work very well because, all the former Soviet Union states, things were still coming into Russia from, these places. So, because they share, they have very friendly equation, and the borders are fairly porous in some sense. So I think the sanctions have not been effective to a large extent. That is number one. Number two, also, one important thing which Putin did after the 2014 Crimea invasion was to start focusing on Russia's own internal production. So he encouraged import substitution in a significant way, whether it's in manufacturing or even in food production. So that seems to have helped the economy as well. So when you look at Russia today, while the economy shrank by about 2% in 2022, that's nothing compared to what could have been the case if the sanctions and the war had taken a bigger toll, right? So unemployment is low in Russia. That's also partly because a lot of people are leaving Russia, fearing their own safety. But people, on the whole, wages have gone up for people because war has created a lot of wealth itself in the economy. And the pressure which was there on ruble after the war erupted and sanctions were imposed, that seems to have also eased, partly because USSR, Russia has actually increased its interest rates to control the currency's movement. Now, that said, Neha, I think Mr. Putin still has much to fear. And how long this rosy picture lasts actually depends on the war, because don't forget, wars are very expensive to fight and carry on. And this war has dragged on now for more than 18 months. While interest rates are currently low, if Kremlin is not able to finance this war and it has to borrow more and more, then the interest rates are going up, have to go up. And as interest rates go up, people's relative prosperity will decline. That's when the unrest will begin. So it's not something which Mr. Putin can take for granted. This kind of economic performance, I think that might actually be one reason. If he at all decides to come to the negotiating table to end the war, one of the major reasons would be the economic reasons, where he'd want to ensure that the prosperity of the people is not impacted, and therefore his challenge to his power is also eliminated. Because unrest in Russia could potentially mean that there are other people in Kremlin who would look forward to displacing Putin as the president and grabbing power from him. So this is an interesting situation for Russia, but I don't think this can be taken for granted. It all depends on how much longer this war is going to go on, and what is the intensity. For example, if there's a tactical nuclear attack also on Ukraine, then the game can change dramatically, Neha. A good story could very rapidly become a tragic story.
Well, as Bill Clinton once famously and rather eloquently said, it's the economy, stupid. But despite everything, I guess the United States still has the highest number of multimillionaires in the world. So I'm guessing, Shri, your vast wealth is still intact, right?
I wish, Neha, and if you know of any bank accounts where I have wealth, I'd be happy to get the password to those accounts.
Oh, come on, you're now being too modest, Shri.